The Decimation of Olarath is a game where you play as some cosmic space horror bastard spawn of Galactus, cruising through star systems and devouring as many planets as you can before you die. Sounds freaking awesome, right? How could you possibly screw up a concept like that? Well, it was developed by Digital Homicide, a two-person developer whose entire modus operandi is making games entirely out of pre-made assets and putting just enough actual programming in to be able to still pass it off as an actual game on Steam. And if you're new to this channel, here's a few more crash courses on how badly these guys suck. Apologies if you're watching this video the day it goes up and I haven't added the hyperlinks yet, but let's not dwell on the past, let's instead dwell on how much ass this game blows. You play as some kind of giant tentacle monster that wouldn't look out of place in an original series episode of Star Trek, and you fly around a star system eating planets. Holy shit, the planet just disappears when you eat it? There's no explosion, no collapse, barely even any noise. I was at least expecting an om nom nom or something. Just poof and it's gone. Bastard just inhales planets like he's Kirby. It doesn't even slow you down, you just fly straight through it. Almost like there's no physics in the entire game. The controls are mind-bogglingly awful. You move way too fast, you turn way too slow, and the controls are ridiculously slippery. You start moving and it takes, I swear, at least 5 full seconds to come to a halt. You have damn near zero mobility. You try and face in a different direction and you just keep barreling in the direction you were already moving. It takes forever to build momentum in a different direction, and by the time you finally started moving where you wanted to go, you've long since passed your intended target. It especially sucks because the planets all move, and you need to pass exactly through the center of a planet, or it's a total gamble if the game will count it as a hit. You need precision accuracy with controls that are like trying to run on a greased-up ice rink. Pretty much the only way to hit any of the planets is to come to a dead stop, carefully position yourself towards a planet, and charge forward, making what course corrections you can. And even this doesn't guarantee you'll actually hit a damn planet. On top of all that, on one occasion I managed to flip myself upside down for my original orientation, because you can turn along any axis you want, and the controls for turning completely reversed. Left became right, up became down, and they never went back to normal. I ended up having to restart the whole game just to fix it. This is a new level of suck. The controls are so bad, the game is damn near unplayable. It doesn't help that the control scheme is tardo. You move forward with W and turn by moving the mouse while holding the right mouse button. Those are the entire controls, and you don't need to point and click at anything in the game, making me wonder why the hell you need to hold a button to turn in the first place. It just feels awkward. Given that it's the button you use for everything on a computer, you might be wondering what the left mouse button does, and honestly, I have no idea. It's supposed to launch an attack, but all it does is waggle your tentacles in front of you, and it doesn't damage planets or the enemies at all. Very rarely I've gotten the damn thing to fire a single projectile, but it only seems to work once per game session, if that. It's like there was supposed to be combat, and then they just didn't program any. Each level has one enemy, and only one enemy. It fires projectiles, and, true to form for cheap games with no AI, it does nothing but head straight for you. And you're so much faster than the one enemy, he'll never do worse than scratch you. And perplexingly, for a wannabe Galactus that devours entire planets twice the robot size like M&Ms, you cannot kill it. You charge into him, nothing happens except you taking a ton of damage. It doesn't even mildly irritate the robot. And as I've said, the attack doesn't do anything, so you have no means of actually fighting the enemies. He also happens to be the only enemy you encounter across the entire game, copied and pasted for every single level. I guess there weren't any other robot assets on the Unity storefront that day. Plus, good old Digital Homicide still can't figure out how to make pausing the game actually pause the game, something games have reliably not screwed up since the days of the NES, so if you pause and walk away to do something else, you'll return to a dead tentacle monster and a robot still shooting at you. The game over screen has 3 options: continue, restart, and exit. But continue and restart both do the exact same thing, drop you off at the first level. So why waste the space with 2 options then? Wait, hold on. What the fuck? You can still keep playing after dying! Look, I'm going on to the next level. The game over screen is still overlaid over the screen. I'm still playing the game completely unimpeded. Holy shit! Oh god, it takes talent to fail that hard. So about now I started wondering to myself, what the hell is the point of the game? What do you do? I get you're supposed to eat all the planets, but I munched every planet I could find and nothing happens. Am I missing one? Because there's no map or navigation markers or anything of any kind telling you where you need to go, where any objectives are, where the enemy is, or where the last planets you're missing are sitting. You're just dropped into this map completely blind with no idea where you are or where you're supposed to go. So you have no options but to just wander out in giant circles hoping you stumble across another planet. Also, the levels don't have any invisible walls fencing off the stage, so it's entirely possible, in fact stupid easy, to accidentally wander so far away from the sun in your search of planets that you'll become permanently lost and can't find your way back to the system. You're pretty much shit out of luck if that happens. All you can do is wander around in giant circles waiting for that timer in the corner to run out. Eventually I figure out that you can eat the sun, which takes you to the next level, but eating the sun deals a ton of damage to you, so you're pretty clearly not supposed to do it. But I can't find any other way to end the stage. It wasn't until much later I found out the little 3-minute time limit in the corner of the screen. The level ends when that clock runs out. The game is designed for you to sit on ass doing nothing. Okay, well, doing more of nothing, and just wait for the level to end. Because I guess programming the game to, end the level when you've done what you're supposed to do was just too taxing to program. So given no other objectives, I opted to just get to the end of the game as quickly as possible. My plan was to eat the sun, eat 2 gaseous planets in the next level to recover my health, eat the next sun, and go to the next level. I thought this would be an effective way to get through the game, but 15 repetitive, identical levels deep with no end in sight, I started to wonder, how freaking long is this game? And if I'm pleading for the game to be over after having played it for 10 minutes, that's a good sign. You need to find a new career. It doesn't take long before the game becomes boring beyond belief. There are no objectives other than, I guess, fly into the sun. The controls are so wretched, every second is spent fighting the game to move where you're trying to go, and the gameplay is almost non-existent. You're just moving through an empty level. Nothing happens. Every single level looks and plays exactly the same. Every level has the same background. Every level has the same one shitty music track. Every level has the same one enemy with the same one behavior and the same one weapon. Every level has the exact same 2 planet models, one for rocky planets and one for gaseous planets. And come to think of it, every single level also seems to have the exact same number of planets in the same general locations. 5 or so rocky planets close to the sun and 4 or so gaseous planets out further. It honestly would not surprise me to find out that every single level was the same level copied and pasted, or just the same map reloading over and over. You could count the number of art assets in the entire game with your fingers and not even have to take your shoes off. Also, every single planet in every single level moves in the same flat 2D plane. The sun and planets are all flat with one another and don't seem to have differing heights. That's advice they have to give to casual gamers using the Free Space Mission Editor for the first time. Not a rookie mistake you'd expect out of a professional developer 15 games into their career! It turns out the game is 21 levels long. Once you've beaten the last level, a little text block pops up with text that alters depending on how many planets you conquered. Apparently, I was immediately devoured upon returning to the hive, or whatever it is, because I didn't destroy enough planets. Never mind the fact that I ate the suns of every solar system, causing every planet to immediately freeze over so inconceivably cold that no life form would ever be capable of surviving on it ever again. Not to mention all the planets drifting off into oblivion due to not having anything to orbit anymore. But no, sue me for being efficient about mass genocide. The game doesn't even save your high score. Pretty much the only possible motivation you have to play this fuck heap more than once is to see what text boxes you get, and considering the controls are broken and the game is boring as shit, that's a pretty thin motivation to subject myself to it a second time. Not when I can get a refund, because this big shit takes about 15 to 20 minutes to complete in its entirety, which is well below the 2-hour threshold, and unless you have brain damage or you're playing to get some more footage for a video, you'll never touch this thing ever again anyway. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what the 3-minute timer was for, to make a single playthrough take an hour and try to run out the refund clock. And the cherry on the big fail sundae, if you linger on the last screen too long, you die after having already beaten the game. Even by digital homicide standards, which are low enough to make limbo dancers in hell stare aghast, this is one of the most blatantly unfinished, barely frickin' started games I've ever seen. The entire game is just you floating around in empty void with wretched controls hoping that something gets in your way. There's no combat, despite there clearly being intended to be. Every level is either identical or similar enough that I couldn't tell the difference, and you just flat out don't do anything. In other words, it's another digital homicide game. Just another one for the pile.